Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican. Today we're talking about UBI, Universal Basic Income, and I kind of put everything that is considered UBI in that, from the citizens' dividend to various distributist policies. But it has a very long history in republicanism. But it needs to be done correctly. So, at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about an example in Venice and why you should sometimes not do it. But going back to Sparta, full Spartan citizens were given equal plots of land to provide them a basic income so they could focus on combat training and also voting in the assembly. Later in life, after military service, they could hold civil offices that would be very, very involved. And throughout their lives, they had no time to engage in trade, commerce, or agriculture themselves. So they depended on that form of UBI in order to devote themselves to public service. Philip Pettit mentions UBI in his book on the people's terms as a possible alternative to social, medical, or judicial security. So it is not to preserve equality, but to prevent domination. So I want to share with you. You can stop watching the video if that's all you want to hear, but I have this really interesting anecdote from Pietro Bembo's History of Venice, and he has this this account of someone who tried to institute the UBI among the citizens of Venice. And when I say citizens of Venice, really the people who are full citizens and able to take part in government. So which was a small percentage, but as far as people engaging in, the size of the population engaging in government at that time, it was relatively large. Even though by today's standards we would say, oh, that's an oligarchy because there's only several thousands who are able to take part in the government. Okay, so this is on page 71. Nevertheless, before the year was out, the Council of Ten took harsh measures to stem corruption in bad citizens that arose from a different quarter. Gabriel Bon was one of the Quarantia for capital crimes. The Quarantia, you can see my videos on Venice, but that's the Council of 40, which was like a Supreme Court. They had a few Supreme Courts. But this was the one on capital crimes, all of whom sit with the Senate, and he was acting as their head. The heads, number 12 altogether, and are elected all at one time by the college. 3 of these heads are in charge of all matters before the Doge for a period of 2 months, and they have the power of proposing legislation, not only in the Senate, but to the Great Council too. After these 3, another 3 from the same body of 12 are in charge for the same length of time until 8 months have passed, and the period of office of the college expires. When Bon occupied that position at the instance of Francesco Falier, he laid before the Doge and the other senators of his collegio a law drawn up by himself. This provided for an annual gift of a gold pound from the public purse to all citizens in straitened personal circumstances who were at least 40 years of age, so that with this support they might make decent provision for themselves and their children. Okay, that's 1 gold pound a year. And I did the calculation about the same time that Andrew Yang was proposing the UBI, his form of UBI, at $1,000 a month. So that'd be $12,000 a year. And I went to several websites to look at the possible calculation of 1 gold pound in the around 1500, and what that would be worth in today's dollars, and it was about 10,000 pounds. So it's or $10,000. So it is kind of similar to Andrew Yang's. I mean, you can imagine, you can think of it as being actually very similar to Andrew Yang's UBI. So those under 40 but over the age of 25 were to receive half a pound on the same account. He had himself decided to propose that law to the Senate and the Great Council, and so that it might be carried after consultation with the Collegio, for it could not be done otherwise, he handed it over for their perusal. The senators gave the law their consideration and concluded that it would set a bad precedent to introduce the custom into the Republic of a single citizen lavishing public funds so prodigally on the rest of the citizen body. They observed that he and Fallier had embarked on this course for the sole reason of finding favor with the citizens so as to get their hands on magistracies. The senators getting more power. The senators gave the Doge the task of summoning the pair before him and warning them not to say another word about the law. They remained silent for some days, but were verbally attacked by many citizens, for whom the measure was greatly to their advantage, for neglecting their own political standing. If they carried the law, they would get whatever magistracies they wished, and would at once become the leading men in the city. And so they made efforts to see if they could put some part of the law into effect. When this was reported to the Collegio, the Council of 10 immediately had Bon and Fallier arrested and thrown into prison, then saw to their deportation to the island of Cyprus. Not bad. Imposing the death penalty if they should ever leave the town of Nicosia. 2 secretaries of the state treasury that they had used as consultants, almost as assistants, in the legislation were also sent into exile on Crete, with the same penalty laid down if they left from the Cretan town of Rethymno. No doubt the Council of 10 decided on this severe sentence not so much to punish men who had not at that point actually proposed the law, no matter how pernicious, and who might desist from their undertaking on their own, as to deter other citizens by the example of these 2 from thinking up any such plan in the future for fear of a similar penalty. Okay, so the punishment was so severe because they wanted to make sure that no one would get so much favor in the eyes of the citizens and become a Caesar. So UBI is a very old Republican idea, but one that needs to be done correctly to resist domination. Until next time, long live the Republic.